You're listening to The Extraction, conversations on the systems and strategies behind dental practice growth with Colin Ambler and Kyle Bergman. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to The Extraction Podcast. Your co-host, Kyle, along with my co-host, co-founder, and CEO of Team Care, Colin Ambler. Today, we're joined by Dr. Paul Etchison, founder of Dental Practice Heroes, host of the Dental Practice Heroes podcast, author of 2 books, and one of the strongest voices in dentistry when it comes to leadership, profitability, and building a practice that does not depend on the owner doing everything. In this episode, we talk with Paul about the importance of leadership, how Paul has designed his practice so he only works 1 day a month, and the magic question to ask to help prevent team turnover. So, Dr. Paul Etchison, welcome to the Extraction Podcast. One of our favorite questions that we like to start off the bat with, and what brought you into the business of dentistry? Curious to hear your beginnings.
That's an interesting question because I feel like I have nobody in my family that was a dentist. There was nothing that really drew me to it other than I worked really hard in undergraduate. I had good grades and I was an advertising major and I just didn't love it. I just didn't love the advertising major. And I had this summer internship lined up and it went away and it just took a lot of wind out of my sails. And I went on to Google and I said, who makes a ton of money? So I didn't write that on my entrance essay to get into dental school. It was all about helping people. But literally, I feel like the motivating factor was money, which seems kind of hollow, but that's the truth. And once I got into it, I really liked it. I liked doing things with my hands. I loved being that person for the patients when they're coming into a very fearful situation and be able to put them at ease. So there was a lot I liked about it. But man, I was putting all my ducks in just like, hey, this makes a ton of money and maybe I get 3-day weekends and hopefully I'll like this. But it worked out for the best.
It totally worked out. And one of the ironic things is that now you help other people make a lot of money in the business of dentistry.
Yeah. Yes. And I do. I do a lot of coaching, consulting, and my goal is to teach practice owners. Money is the side effect. I want them to take great care of their teams and great care of their patients. But at the same time, I want them to have a practice that really allows them to take a bunch of time off and to not be the overall focus and drain of their life. Because we know as entrepreneurs, it's very easy to get in that situation and to fall into that trap. And it's very easy to just put all of your identity and self-worth on being that practice owner. And at a certain point, you might realize that's not delivering the fulfillment that you want. And you're kind of stuck. So it's one of those things. I'm teaching practice owners how to do that. I want to teach them how to run a better business because I think at the foundation is if we can run a great business, if we can create systems and have a peaceful practice that is highly efficient, it opens those doors to give us freedom to do whatever we want, such as practicing maybe just 2 days a week, maybe 1 day a week. Right now I'm practicing 2 days a month. That's after a long time of developing those kind of systems in the practice. But there's a lot of flexibility and freedom in dentistry. We just have to take a hold of it. And you don't earn that by just getting your degree. You've got to put in the time and you got to put in some upfront energy and invest the energy into the things that get you freedom. But that's what I'm teaching other dental practice owners. I've been doing that for the past, 8 years now. I've been coaching and doing my podcast. I really enjoy it. It's fun to see people transform.
So I have some questions. So give us just an overview about maybe like you might call it a curriculum or something. I think maybe everyone has a little bit different way that they might like to approach and advise and coach and stuff like that. Maybe it's about hygiene or maybe it's about doing more continuing ed to get to higher ticket procedures like ortho or implants. People might talk about different strategies that might work to get to financial freedom and peace and sustainable business. But what's your recipe? How do you like to go through it?
Well, my goal is to create a practice that makes money when you're not there. So for a lot of us, that's going to mean associate-driven model. That doesn't mean that you have to have an associate if you're going to follow my curriculum. At the heart of what I teach people is I want our team members. Think about how awesome our life would be if all of our team members did exactly what we wanted to do when we wanted them to do it, exactly the way we wanted them to do it. And the fact of the matter is that would be great, but is that even realistic? To some extent, it is realistic, but we have to be very clear with what we're doing. And it takes a special sort of communication and setting up systems of management. So a lot of what I teach my coaching clients is that I want them to have team members that are engaged, that are doing things because of the right reasons. They're not doing it because they're going to get in trouble. They're doing it for the right reasons for the patients. And that's why I say like two things that always has to satisfy everything I teach my coaching clients. One, it is the best thing for your team. Two, it is the best thing for your patients. And yes, it's going to be really efficient. It's going to make a ton of money. It's going to give you freedom. It's going to give you all these good things. But I want to root it in those things because that's how I get team buy-in. So a lot of what I teach that's different from other people is the communication tactics. And I find that's one of the things that the dentists really struggle with. I mean, we teach systems, we teach scheduling systems. If it was as easy as just knowing how to do it, we'd all be doing it. But how do we get buy-in? How do we inspire a team? How do we build structure into a team so people respond and feel respected and feel valued and they drive fulfillment and meaning from their jobs? Those are the best teams. I'm talking about the office when you walk in and you feel that vibe. How do we create that? It's magical. At the top of every organization that has that is a leader. So it's the leadership. Now, if I just talk about leadership, nobody's going to sign up for my stuff. I got to talk about money and all this other good stuff because leadership, people shut it off. But honestly, at the heart of it, it's leadership and communication. So I take my clients through a 7-phase process of laying out clarity, laying out written documented systems. I don't get too granular. I think you can get way over the top with that stuff, but just basic stuff and setting up a regular cadence of communication between different members of the team, depending on what their role is, that just keeps the practice growing. And eventually the practice can grow without you and it doesn't rely on you for everything. And that's why I can show up 2-3 days a month. I haven't been in my practice in almost a month now. I've been taking some time off and it's been great. It's still running. It's still getting 5-star reviews. It's still making money and everybody's happy. But I didn't just abandon my practice. I had to make sure things were going to run. If I'm the training wheels, when the training wheels came off, it had to keep going. So that's to answer your question,
Yeah.
very much based in communication, leadership.
No, I love that. One of the topics that I think gets talked about commonly when you talk about building a team, building a practice, building something that can be there, it can keep going when you're not there. Staff turnover comes into play, and people, and I think that strong teams probably limit turnover, right? Like
Yeah.
less people are going to leave if there's just a lot of connections there and people like it, and there's a strong culture. But still, things happen. People get pregnant, people move, their spouses, life happens. But I think maybe in some of the cultures that you help build, that's limited. But for the rest of the world, F turnover is like a crisis and rising labor costs and like trying to train people and replace people efficiently. Do you hear that a lot where when people come into you, and is it something that you have to address as one of the first issues that you talk to when someone onboards with you?
Yeah, it's interesting because it is one of the things that I address right away because so many things play into it that play into my system and what I really believe a dental practice should run like. It's one of those things is if we've got a practice roughly collecting about $6 million a year, 4 full-time associates, specialists. We're open 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. We got 35 employees. It's one of those things. If we had a lot of turnover, we just couldn't do it. I mean, it's hard enough to fulfill and replace your places when you get turnover, when people leave. How do you grow a team to 35 people? Now, what I preach is we need to pour into our teams with training and stuff. I mean, that would suck if the people left after that. I remember back in the day, my practice has been open, man, 14 years now, coming up on 14 years tomorrow, which is strange that we're recording that. It's actually 14 years tomorrow.
Happy
And
anniversary.
yeah, thanks. 14 is not a very significant one. It's kind of a weird number, but we'll do something special for 15. But I remember the first 10 years of being open, this is like, or 9 years before COVID, is we had so little turnover, almost to the point, like I remember speaking at Voices of Dentistry in 2018 and talking about a no turnover team and people are like, no turnover. I'm like 0. And we were doing certain things at that time. Come back from COVID, I don't know if it was karma, if it was me talking out loud about it. I got my ass kicked by turnover after COVID. And it was just a night and day difference. We had people quitting, going to other jobs. We've had people leave, like go to nursing school, but we've never had anyone leave to go to another dental practice. It was crazy. And what was interesting is I sat down and I said, what's different? And what was different, it was all the relational things. We were no longer communicating, finding out what people were doing in their lives outside of work. We was trying to stay away from people. We weren't doing any like team events. We used to do like 4 to 6 of those a year, like outside of work, where everybody would show up and not get paid because they liked being around the people at work. And we stopped doing those. We lost that connection. So one of those things is that, and the other thing that was huge is we always did one-on-ones. We always said, how are things going here? Sit down with your team member. How are things going? What frustrates you? Nothing frustrates me. Like, give me something that frustrates you because we can only get better if we find out what frustrates you. And we were asking, and you got to think about when you get turnover, something pisses off your team member. And they don't just say, hey, if that happens 6 more times, I'm going to leave. They just get mad and it keeps happening over and over again. And it pisses them off until eventually they go, I don't get paid enough to be here and deal with this crap. I'm moving on. They start looking at other greener pastures. But if we can insert ourselves in there on the people that are on the front lines, and we can ask them questions, just a very open question of just what's frustrating to you. Tell me something that bothers you. Anything that would bother somebody, we will be able to address it. I remember dealing with this employee. She was an insurance coordinator. Her name was Christy. And she said to me, I checked in. She goes, honestly, Doc, I'm thinking about leaving. I'm just not happy here anymore. And we talked about everything that was going on. We went and addressed it. She stuck around for another 6 years before she eventually moved out of town. And it was one of those things, though. I addressed the things that she brought to me. I cared enough to ask. And then that person walks out of that meeting seeing that I address it. That person feels cared for. That person feels like they matter and they feel like this is a special team. I will never find this anywhere else. So we got to build that with our team members. And we also need to put them in situations, like I mentioned, the social functions. I mean, I read in a book and I can't remember what it was, but it was like 85% of employees will stick around on a job they hate because they love the people they work with and they don't want to lose that peer group. So we've got to give them opportunities to be in that peer group. So 4 times a year, we have a half day meeting, and the other half of the meeting, we go do something fun, and I pay everybody to be there. I like literally pay them to go to the bar and get drunk. And it drives me crazy. Sometimes some people won't come, and I'm like, you need to come to this. I'm shutting down the whole practice so we can do something fun. You need to be there. So it's part of our culture. But are those the things that are going to show up on a profit and loss where you're going to say that was the X factor right there? Look, we did all these social functions and look how much more money we made. It's one of those intangible things, but I assure you it is important. It does deserve just as much energy as looking at your reappoint rates or looking at your production and collections.
Yeah.
So,
I
Doc,
mean, it's like an insurance policy. I agree with everything you said. I love it. I don't think people talk about those soft skills enough. But Kyle, I want you to say.
I'm curious what happened or didn't happen that led you to go from being a practice owner to then wanting to or feeling compelled to provide consulting services to other practice owners?
Yeah,
Why'd
a
you
good
do that?
question. It was one of those things that over the course of the practice growing, I think most of us screw this up as dental practice owners. We don't realize that we have to sit in the CEO seat for a certain amount of time. And we don't tend to do it at all. We tend to do it when we get a cancellation or like maybe like we'll come in on a Friday when we're off. And it's not the time that your practice deserves. Your practice deserves more time than that. But as I brought on an associate, and this was first before my practice expanded. Now we're 11 operatories. We used to be 5 operatories. I had to back out a day to make room for a full-time associate. So I had to make a little bit of room. So I cut myself down to 3 days. And I came in that fourth day to support my associate, but I also came in that fourth day to work on the business. And what I discovered is that our business started growing very fast. So then as our business continued to grow, I continued to cut back clinical days. And so I could have more time to run the business. But then, when we came back from COVID, this was the big switch in my life is that I felt like I had everything delegated in my practice. I felt like everything was running great. And when we shut down for COVID and I didn't have that in my life for 12 weeks, it felt amazing. Everyone's like, I'm going crazy at home. I'm like, I don't ever want to go back. I'm never going. I was like breaking out like my checking statements and all my savings. I'm like, I don't want to go back. I want to retire. This is awesome. Like I spending time with my family. We were eating dinner as a family. We were doing things together. And it really made me realize what a grasp that practice had a hold on me. So what I did is I went back and I said, I have leaders at this practice, but I am bottlenecking them. I'm not allowing them to do things. And I started giving them responsibilities such as, hey, you know how like we get these resumes and I call on them and I see if the person's nice and then I have them in for an interview? Do you think you could do that? Do you think you could do the interview? Do you think you could negotiate the pay? Do you think you could handle this interpersonal conflict with going on? Do you think you could fire this person for me? And I started giving them a bunch of responsibilities. And what happened is that I all of a sudden wasn't needed as much. And, what do they say? Idle hands is the devil's playground. I mean, I just didn't have a whole lot to do when it wasn't needed as much. And people started asking me for help and I started helping people. And I got to see how valuable it is for me to watch like a dentist who might be burnt out or just overworked or just not really enjoying their life as much as they could, and take them from somebody working 5 days a week to somebody working 2 days a week that has a business that runs without them, and seeing that they can be present with their kids, with their spouse. And it makes a big transformation in their lives. And it makes me feel good to know that I helped with that. And maybe like those kids will have a better parent, better father, better mother because of the things that I taught them that I had to learn somewhat the hard way, but it's a way of giving back. And it's just extremely, it's just, there's nothing like it. It's amazing. I love doing it. So it's the thing that draws me. Dentistry got old. I'm going to be honest, seeing patients got a little bit old. It got a little bit too routine and not as challenging anymore. I find this challenging. I'm engaged in it. So this is what my 40s are about. I'm 44 right now. My 30s were about the practice. 40s are about this. And hopefully we make it to 50. I think I will.
50s, we start a band, right?
Yeah. Yes, we get the band back together. We show everybody what music used to be like when they made it so much better than the kids these days. Oh gosh. Yep. Yeah. And Snickers used to cost a nickel, I think. Yeah. Pretty cool.
I have a half-baked thought experiment. I think part of the reason that Colin brings me on these pods is because I don't have a background in dentistry, and therefore I kind of come at things from a different angle, sometimes naive, maybe sometimes otherwise. In this thought experiment, you have identified a practice owner who is living in like a fear-based situation, but that if they're just able to step back in the short term, they're going to see tremendous growth. You have high confidence. In order for them to have confidence in letting you help them do that, they would require some sort of financial assistance. They're like, there's no way we can take $100,000 cut potentially in production if we're going to let my associate take the wheel more. And would you say, I'll cover that, and then you pay me, a percentage of the value that's created afterwards? Have you ever done something like that for
I
a
have
potential client?
considered that. Yeah, 'cause it is a sizable investment to work with me, but some people are very scared to do it. And I said, you know what? We can do results based. I've never had anyone take me up on it, but I will tell you this, Kyle, is that one of the first steps in I call this dental practice hero block scheduling is we're going to decide. I have never had a client that was 5 days a week or 4 days a week that I wasn't able to get down to 3 days a week and do the exact same, if not more production. There's so much inefficiency. So we're going to get intentional about the schedule. Now, I have worked with some people. I mean, I'm thinking of somebody I'm working with right now that was 100% comfortable with like, I just want to cut my days back. I don't care about taking less money home. I just want some time back. And I said, well, why don't we do it this way? And he said, I'm happy with my pace of work. I'm happy with my production. I just want to cut days back. Now, I just started working with this person. I'm probably going to change their mind on it because I don't think it's very difficult to keep the production up. But we are intentional about what we put in the schedule. And what I mean, just to give somebody an idea of what this block scheduling is we're going to hold space for new patients. We're always going to hold space for new patients. If we don't have anywhere to stick our existing patients, we're expanding hygiene. We're not cutting off flow of new patients. And we are going to guarantee that we're going to see a certain amount of big procedures every month or every day. And people would say this is the rock, pebble, sand sort of thing. And it kind of is we're going to make sure we're seeing at least 2 or 3 high profit procedures. But then also we're going to limit the amount of those BS short procedures that suck you dry emotionally and just aren't productive at all. And
Amen.
so we can't have a full day of those. So we need to have big procedures like high profit, but we need to limit the little ones. And then there's things like the schedule killers, such as a single composite. If I'm going to diagnose a single composite, and if you're going to do that in my office, you're going to do it today. We're doing it today, or you're going to watch it and save it for next time. Maybe there'll be another one. We'll do at least 2. Never do a single composite. So, but if the patient needs it, you do it today. Most of the time we're doing it today. We're not doing a lot of like, hey, let's just watch it for our convenience and our profitability. But yes, so we're figuring out how do we create a schedule that if we follow this template, the teams think it's easy to follow. Like teams love this way of scheduling. Is we can guarantee that we can cut ourselves back and make room for the associate, all while still continuing to produce as much. And when I did this in my practice, I went from 4 to 3 days. I brought on an associate just 3 days a week, and then she eventually made 5 days a week, maybe 6 months later. I was fully on board with making less money. Time was so much more valuable to me and my sanity. I was just burnt out like you wouldn't believe. We were coming in earlier. We were staying late. I should have expanded and brought an associate probably 2.5 years before I actually did, knowing what I know now. But when we get this schedule, when we set up the schedule and the template, it's very easy for us to see when we should be expanding. Like a lot of people say, like, when do I get the hygienist? Well, there's 1,300 active patients per, I just say we're holding space for new patients 6 months from now. And if you look 6 months ahead and you have nowhere to stick an existing patient, you need another hygienist. You need to add hours. You need to add hygienists. And we'll do that. We'll add a third column of hygiene and we'll start booking it. And people are like, well, what if I can't find that hygienist? So just find them. But what if I don't? I don't know. It's never happened yet, but you can just find them. You just find them. If you have to pay out the butt for them, that's fine too. But I've never had anyone, you got 6 months to find them, make it happen. Put it on the schedule. And then I guess if we got there and we didn't find the hygienist, we'd figure something out. It has yet to happen to a client of mine. So far, betting 1,000 there for that. But who knows? Maybe one day it will. And if it's going to happen in any environment, it's going to be this one we're going through right now with hygienists for sure. Yeah.
Paul, for practice owners or practice managers that are listening and feeling trapped, how could they work with you? Are you only local in the Chicago area, or do you do virtual?
I do virtual. I'm not going to travel. It's just, the thing is it's one of those things is, I will, and I have a lot of people ask me like, hey, can you work with my team? I will work with your team, but my goal is to teach you how to work with your team, because if I can't teach you how to work with your team, and that's the big thing. That's the big thing that changes people and transforms them from the inside, is we start putting in these processes and these ways of interacting and checking in with your team that just, they work when you do them and you follow the structure. But if anyone wants to check out what it would be like to work with me, go to dentalpracticeheroes.com. That is my website. My podcast is the same name. You can go to wherever you download. If you go to Apple Store, go to Play Store, download the Dental Practice Heroes app. There's free courses on there. There's a free community on there. A bunch of my free stuff and all the other stuff is such as our retreats that we're doing and all the in-person events we do. We do a whole bunch of stuff. So I'm doing virtual courses all the time. I'm trying to create the fail-proof way of running a practice where anyone can do it. And I think I've got it pretty dang close. I think that it requires no special skills whatsoever. Just
That's
follow
awesome.
the recipe. And and we have other coaches that work with me as well. It's not always working with me, but go to dentalpracticeheroes.com. You can see everything we offer. We have some really cool programs.
Awesome. And we will definitely include that in the show notes so people can check it out. One other thing, and it's kind of cool that you're able to scratch that advertising background that you had by developing that type of playbook. And speaking of advertising, this podcast, your podcast, all of the drum beating that we are doing is an effort to say the same thing 12 or 1,200 different ways so that it clicks for people, trying to change people's brain chemistry, because it really is about communication and leadership, as you said. And I'm curious, in your travels, is there any literature, mentors, folks that, because you're a very impressive dude. You're a clear thinker. It seems like you have great intuition. You're a self-starter. It's really possible that it's all organic and you figured it out on your own. But oftentimes there's mentors or people that we look at, form that we emulate. And is there anyone that comes to mind of people that you would recommend that other folks could check out?
Yeah, man, that's a tough one. Is because as far as my mentor was my dad. He was the one who taught me. We were of the mind that you don't hire people to do house projects. We will figure this out. We will get this done. And so I think there was always this idea in my head that I could do anything if I had the right person to show me. So I have worked with mentors in my dental career. I would say one of the best things I had was a mastermind group. I had a mastermind group of about 15 other dentists. We were all in the same place in practice. We were all doing associate-driven practices. And it was just so valuable to me to lean on those people that were a little further ahead. To give a certain, just one thing for the listeners, I can't say that I could come up with someone, but I will say, I wrote 2 books. You could check those out. But I would say Chuck Blakeman, Making Money is Killing Your Business, was a very important read for me. And that was the book that made me realize that when you are in the producer role, you are making your business worse. Not saying you shouldn't be in the producer and the dentist role. You should be to some extent if it's what you like doing. But if you spend all your time there, you're going to make your business will never reach that full potential. So I would say to listeners, read some books, check out some people that have what you want and they can teach you how to do it. You've got to learn from people. I'm still doing coaching. I still have coaching relationships. I still have a coach for a number of things in my life.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. And we'll put Chuck's book in the show notes as well. And more importantly, your 2 books as well. And yeah, it's great.
And the app. Don't forget about the app.
And the app. And the
I've
app.
been building
Yeah,
this. I've been at this a long time.
Yeah.
I've been at this a long time. We've got about 45 hours of courses. And so that's overwhelming to anyone. They're ordered so you can figure out where to start.
No, it's
Amazing.
awesome. I mean, I
Amazing.
think you speak very practically. You talk about fundamentals, really just real world stuff about getting people life gains. And I've been in the operator shoes. I'm the owner of practice shoes. I know what it's like to go through this, and I know what it's like to have a mentor group, like you said, and more importantly, a coach that's kind of helping you walk through the badlands and step here, don't step there. So I'm a huge fan of everything you've talked about, and we're definitely going to recommend you as we go about this for people that are looking for help to get
Yeah.
that life balance. It's been really awesome.
Well, it's one of those things is, I mean, I know, Colin, you've got a large practice, so there's one of those things. Your practice is very similar to mine. And so every issue anyone has probably had in their practice, they could probably come to you and say, hey, have you ever had anything like this happen? And you're going to say, hell yeah. It's one of those things. When you've got a big team, you have every single thing happen. And if I wanted to leave something for your listeners, very tactical, and I teach this to all my coaching clients, and this is what I call my CVI method. And it's C stands for curiosity, V for validation, and I for invitation. Whenever you're having an accountability conversation with a team member, get curious, ask questions. What's going on? I noticed this didn't get done. I noticed this. Hey, this is important to me. I want to understand what happened, because you truly want to understand. And then the next part's validation. Here's where everybody screws it up. Is that team member will tell them what happened, and that owner or the leader will say, no, that's not what happened. No, you misinterpreted. No, you misunderstood. No, that's not what I said. And they're just they're invalidating that person's experience. You can validate that person's experience without agreeing with them. Say, hey, you know what? Based on what you experienced, I could totally see how you would think it was that, how you think I meant that, how you thought we were supposed to do it like that. And then you invite them. But this is something we need to get done. What do you think we could do so that it gets done, even when we're busy, depending on what the role is? But that validation step will just change so many things for all dental practice owners. If you just validate that person's experience, do it with an upset patient. It will let the guard down. We are time to work. We're going to collaborate. When you don't validate that person's experience, it's just all bets are off. And I learned that in my career, where it was way more important for my team to be right than it was for me to go home and feel right. Because when you feel
Amen.
like you had to prove your ground and get defensive and stay right, nobody left. They didn't leave that conversation thinking you were right. They were thinking you were a D. They didn't like you. So that would be my last tactical tip for everybody. And on that, I guess that's a good spot.
That's a great spot. Seek first to understand, then to be understood.
Right. Absolutely.
Well, Dr. Paul, thank you so much for joining us today. And for those listening, you know where to find Dr. Paul. We'll have it in the show notes. And yeah, we'd love to have you on again soon. Thanks, man.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on, guys. Have a great
Paul.
time.
It's awesome.
Thank you for listening to The Extraction with Colin Ambler and Kyle Bergman. Read episode notes and transcripts at teamcaredental.com.